I want to turn back to the aftermath of the Durham indictment of Danchenko and Igor Danchenko. And I want to talk about the role of the media. A very good representative of this is Rachel Maddow. Now, Rachel Maddow has been caught, you may almost say, with her pants down, because for years, this character has been promoting the Russia collusion line. Now, she hasn't done it by herself. She's had plenty of help from people at MSNBC. She's had people on like Adam Schiff. By the way, Adam Schiff was beautifully confronted about his systematic disinformation on The View, no less. And, you could see Adam Schiff putting on his constipated look. He doesn't expect to be confronted there. He thought he was in friendly territory. But they point out that your credibility is gone. And so is Rachel Maddow's, because this is the kind of stuff, if I can remind you, this was just days before Trump's inauguration. Rachel Maddow says, she goes, I'm not quoting her, we're about to find out if the new president of our country is going to do what Russia wants once he's commander-in-chief of the U.S. military starting noon on Friday. And she basically implies that Trump is going to withdraw troops from the Russian border as a kind of gift to Putin, a thank you present for Putin having helped Trump win the election. I mean, outrageous stuff. Now, in fact, Trump did no such thing. In fact, he increased troops to the border, so this turned out to be a flat-out false prediction, but it was a prediction premised on the idea that there was ongoing collusion with Russia. So what do you think Rachel Maddow is saying now that she knows that the whole thing was based on a lie, now that she knows that Christopher Steele, the former British spy who worked for Fusion GPS, this is the guy, by the way, who created the so-called dossier that Hillary Clinton paid for. The dossier was then fed to the FBI. It became the basis of an FBI investigation. Now, what makes this also corrupt is that Danchenko himself, who is, by the way, the source, this guy, Christopher Steele, implied that he had Russian sources. In fact, he had none. This Danchenko guy is of Russian origin, but he worked at the Brookings Institution, a left-wing think tank. Danchenko also implied he had other sources, including a guy named Sergei Milyan, but in fact, we now know he never talked to Milyan. So the whole thing is one lie on top of the other. Basically, this Danchenko guy got his lies from a Democratic operative, a guy named Charles Dolan, a guy with a kind of long history in the Democratic Party. He's a Clinton guy. This is a guy who's worked for the DNC. This is a guy who's been appointed to various boards by the Democrats. So this guy is feeding lies to Danchenko. And Danchenko's adding lies of his own. So, for example, this guy apparently is the source, Dolan, about the story that Trump was cavorting with prostitutes in Russia. Apparently, Danchenko added his own details about the so-called P tape, which he completely made up. And all of this was promulgated in respectable media outlets. So, you see that there's been really a barrage of misinformation. And you'd think that these outlets would now try to correct them. But interestingly, if you look at CNN, disinformation outlet number 1, MSNBC, number 2, the New York Times, number 3, there's virtually no coverage. Even the Washington Post, which did a little bit of a mea culpa, said something like this. The Durham indictment raises troubling questions about the conduct of media organizations, including the Washington Post. End of story. Nothing more. Not that we've been perpetrating lies for months, if not years. These lies have done incalculable damage, but none of this. And they're lying still. And here's Rachel Maddow covering now the Durham indictments. She goes, this is a Trumpian ploy by Durham. To do what? A mission to demonize the investigation of Trump's associations with Russia. So what you see here is, incurable, I won't say ignorance, because I don't think Rachel Maddow's all that dumb. She's pretty dumb, don't get me wrong. This is kind of why she won't have me on her show, because it's sort of be like one hand clapping. But nevertheless, she's smart enough to know that she's been busted. She's smart enough to know that these are now, these are lies on tape, you might say. This is why this guy is probably going to go to jail for them. And it's all there in the indictment. But her point is, why admit it? My audience wants me to lie. No one's going to hold me accountable for lying. I just got a lucrative contract for lying. So I'm really going to keep up the lying because it's in my interest to lie. And lying is kind of why I'm here. So we are at the dismaying recognition that in a lot of these places, lying is part of the job description. Journalism is really not about the truth. It is about perpetrating the lies that your audience is paying you to deliver to them.